Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista, and today we are in my most favorite spot. We're in my garden. I thought today would be super fun to show you guys what my garden is looking like at the very beginning of June. Today is June the 1st, so my garden is definitely in bloom. A lot of the spring garden stuff is just starting to finish off right now, and we're starting to get all of the warm summer crops. We're definitely starting to see them grow a little bit more. I thought it would be really cool for me to do a video just kind of documenting what my garden looks like at this point, just so that I can have it for future reference to go back and look and see. I am located in South Central Kentucky. I am in zone 7A, sometimes 7B, it all depends. We are located about 45 minutes north of Nashville and probably about 35 minutes south of Bowling Green, Kentucky. So we are in a super beautiful spot of the country. We definitely get all 4 seasons here, and we are very, very fortunate to get about 3 growing seasons here. We have a spring, we have a summer growing season, like a heat of the summer growing season, and then we're also fortunate enough to get a pretty long fall growing season. So I can essentially get 3 different types of crops planted, which is amazing. It's excellent for me who I am trying to preserve our year's worth of food out of our garden. I'm trying not to have to go to the grocery store very often. This year I have a very huge goal of trying to preserve a lot of our stuff that we grow in this garden to last us about a year. I do a lot of preserving, so a lot of canning. I freeze a lot of it for the upcoming year. And you'll kind of see that in my garden where I have a lot of one thing, and it's because my intent is to get that preserved for the year. We are a family of 4. There is me, my husband, and my 2 kids. Now the 2 kids do not live with us permanently. They are away at school, so they are here when they're not in school and when they're not working. So just keep that in mind when you're seeing the amount of food that I'm growing. I consider this to be a pretty small backyard garden. I don't grow food on a mass amount scale. I don't market garden. This is just, again, for the consumption for us 4. And then if we have extras, I love blessing our friends with the extras that we get from our garden. So I guess we'll get started on my side garden. I have I have more than 2 gardens here, but my main 2 garden areas, I have one on the side and then I have one on the back. My side garden that I have that we're in right now is mostly all in like above ground raised beds, and then the garden in the back, there are some raised beds back there, but that is my in-ground gardening space. That's where I get my stuff that likes to spread and sprawl. So I guess we'll start in this side garden stuff. Also, because we are in spring, I have been already harvesting stuff because it is already starting to actually go to seed. So I actually have a couple of things. I'm out here pretty early this morning. I have a couple of things that I actually need to get pulled out of the garden this morning as well. I like to get out here first thing and get that stuff harvested. That way it's at its prime. Now yesterday we were super blessed and we actually had a rain come through early in the evening yesterday, so everything is just beautiful. And I just noticed, I guess we'll start here. These are my snow peas and I just noticed they are all fallen down. Don't know how that happened, probably from the storm last night. I do actually need to get in here and harvest quite a bit of these. I've actually harvested off of them a little bit already. I did have some arugula planted at the bottom of this bed, but it all kind of went to seed. Once I pull these snow peas out, this is where I'm going to be planting one of my cucumber plants. Last year I actually preserved enough pickles that I don't need to grow any more pickling cucumbers this year, but I do want to have at least 1 cucumber plant so that I can pick, fresh cucumbers and we can eat that fresh in a salad. So over here, I have some shelling peas. Again, I need to get out and harvest this. There are a couple of tomato plants in here. You can see they're all falling down. I actually need to get out here and put cages around these. My intent is once the shelling peas are all done, I'm actually going to come in and make a better trellis along here, and then that way my tomatoes can just kind of trellis up that. In this bed right here, this is my asparagus bed. It is kind of a little bit of a mess right now. It has some dill in it, but it also has a lot of weeds. I really need to get in here and get weeding. Some asparagus right there. Come pick some of that also. This bed was a spinach bed, but all of the spinach went to seed. So I'm thinking I'm just going to leave that potentially empty for now, and then I'll put some more spinach in there come fall. That beautiful flower right here is a borage flower. I have them kind of throughout my garden. I love to plant them. They are excellent for the pollinators. This bed right here, I have some more shelling peas. I liked the idea of having the shelling peas go up that trellis, but they didn't get as tall as I'd like. Once we're done with the shelling peas, which will probably be in the next couple of weeks, I am actually going to plant here a green Kentucky pole wonder bean so it can travel up the trellis. It'll be really beautiful. But I'm waiting until these peas are done, which again, it should be in the next couple of weeks. They're really starting to fill out. And then right here, I have some cannelloni beans. This is the first year that I am attempting to grow these. So I'm excited to see what I get out of them. And then over here, I have another bed of shelling peas. I'm really trying to get a good amount of these in the freezer. Look at them. Definitely some of them are ready to be picked. And that's just happened over the last couple of days. Like I came out here yesterday and a lot of the peas look flat like this, and now they're just like bursting with pods. It's amazing. And then this bottom bed here, I attempted to plant some green beans and yellow beans, but unfortunately I have a little bit of an insect problem. I believe it is pill bugs, and they are eating all of my really young seedlings. So I'm gonna just sow a couple more seeds in here, but because we're doing the Kentucky pole wonder beans up the trellis, I'm not too concerned about about the bush beans, because I'll get my green beans from the pole beans. This bed over here, I have some more shelling peas. There's a theme. And then I have some lettuce actually that I have to get pulled out. It is gone to seed. And then the little plants in here are some black beans. So I'm excited to try to grow some black beans this year. We really love black beans with a lot of our dishes. So I'm excited to get some of those preserved and canned up. And then these beds right here are my cauliflower. I've got a couple cabbage, and then actually this is broccoli, sorry. Broccoli bed, a couple cabbages, and then we have some cauliflower over in this bed. I have been harvesting quite a bit off of these because again, they're going to seed. But if you notice here, like I've harvested the main stalk off of this plant, and look at all of the side shoots that it's giving. Like even the side shoots are starting to go to seed. So again, that's on the list of need to get harvested. But it is looking good. Lots of yummy broccoli. Gotta get that guy over there. It's going to seed. And these are a couple of different cabbages that I have. This particular kind right here is an early round Dutch cabbage. These two ones right here. And then these two right here are Copenhagens. And then this is my cauliflower bed. I have harvested quite a bit of cauliflower already. This one right there. Got one hiding. Because we get such warm weather here and it like literally just switches, our cauliflower tends to actually turn purple. And it's not the variety of cauliflower, because I do have some purple cauliflower planted, like that's one right there. But that is just strictly from our heat that we get here. It actually causes the cauliflower to turn purple. I was so confused by that last year when all my cauliflower started turning purple. I'm like, what the heck is it doing? Then I did some research and I found out that when the cauliflower gets too hot, it actually turns purple. It doesn't get that beautiful snow white color. So that's what that is. So I need to get that harvested. And in this bed right here, we have some kohlrabies. I've actually harvested quite a bit of these guys already. They were huge bulbs. Some just random kale that I put in here. Got some sage here. Most of it's gone to flower. And we have a beautiful head of cabbage here. It's almost ready. And then we've got some red rock cabbage and then just some more Copenhagen cabbage. And that right there is the purple cauliflower plant I was talking about. It's not really, oh, it is starting to head up a little bit. And then in this bed over here, I have some cilantro. This bed gets morning sun, but then it actually turns to shade. So that is why I put my cilantro there, because it likes to go to seed here very quickly. So this bed, I have the best chance of getting it to not bolt. And then this is just some red lettuce that I actually need to pull out because it's gone to seed. This right here is my beet bed. I have a couple of different varieties of beet in here. I have a early wonder beet, I have a Detroit red, and then I have a golden beet. They're starting to get some nice bulbs on them. This here is a romaine lettuce bed and a Marlowe red leaf lettuce. And then this bed right here, I have onions. I kind of have onions scattered throughout my whole garden, but these guys are looking good. I have onions here, and then I have another onion bed here. And this is kind of what I do with my garden beds, is wherever I have like space along the edges, I will throw onions there. This particular bed right here is a mix of tomatillos. So I have tomatillos on this side. These are all jalapeno peppers here, and then I have the onions. Onions, peppers, and tomatoes all love growing together. They're very, very good companion growers. So that's why I have these all put into this bed. These onions will probably be coming out probably within the next 4 weeks. So once these onions get pulled, those pepper plants will get all of that extra nitrogen and stuff that's in the soil. So once these onions come out, I expect these pepper plants just to kind of go nuts and grow huge. They're already starting to flower, which is really, really cool. And then right here, I just have a couple containers. I call it like my tea containers. These are all different varieties of mint. We have some chocolate mint right here. We have just some regular peppermint, and then that guy over there is some apple mint. I like to keep my mint contained. I made the mistake and put a mint plant in my storm shelter, and we'll go over there and look at it, but I made the mistake of putting it in there, and it just took over half of the bed. So now I have pretty much a mint garden. So I've learned with the mint just to kind of keep it by itself and keep it contained. That way it can be managed a little bit better. So this bed right here is all Utah tall celery. So I have learned a trick here about tying celery up. This year I decided that my goal was to learn how to grow celery successfully. Learn how to get really tall, thick stalks. Every year I grow celery, it's always these thin little like woody stalks, and it doesn't taste the best. It usually ends up tasting like really, really strong. So I said this year I really want to focus my skills on learning how to grow a good big head of celery, and tying them up was one thing that I learned to help kind of keep them growing up versus keeping them from sprawling. So that is what I'm doing there. I have a couple of different celery beds because, again, that is my focus. When I'm trying to learn a new skill, I like to try to optimize as many spaces with it so that I can really kind of hone in on that skill. Beets is the other one that I said I was going to grow this year and learn how to grow. I have tried to grow beets the last 4 years that I have been at this particular property and had zero success. So seeing those beets right there is making me really, really excited. So that's a celery bed right there. This bed is, I kind of call it my pollinator bed. It has some echinacea in there. That is bee balm, and then I have a St. John's wort plant right there. So these, again, I will take these and dry these for teas. And then this bed right here, I did have some spinach in it, but it all went to seed, so I had to pull it, and I have to actually pull this guy. It's a lettuce that's gone to seed. This is another plant that if you are going to put in your garden, make sure you put in its spot that you want just for it. This is oregano. It is in the mint family, so it is an aggressive plant as well. So this kind of is just an oregano bed now, and I actually need to get in here and just kind of give it a haircut. And over here in this small little bed, I have some cherry tomatoes. I have a sweetie cherry tomato and a Chadwick. And then this guy right here is a Thai blue butterfly pea plant. I had them planted there last year and I was able to save some seeds, and that is one that I saved the seeds from. It's kind of struggling a little bit, but I remember it last year doing the exact same thing, and then it actually, once it really started to heat up outside, it actually came back. Like, it just started growing like crazy, so that will do well in that spot. This bed right here is some more broccoli. This is the difference between different types of varieties of broccoli. I believe that this is called a green magic or an early magic. I'm gonna have to double check. I only had one that actually germinated from my seed pack. It was old, and I really want to grow these next year because you notice how the heads stay nice and tight versus like this variety where they just like get huge and like almost bolt a lot quicker. So I gotta get that guy picked. But I have some broccoli along here, and then I have one cauliflower at the end. And then in here I have some carrots. A lot of my carrots didn't germinate, so I just have a couple there. And then again, onions, because carrots and onions and brassicas, they all are good to grow together. Once I get this broccoli pulled out, I'm thinking that I'm actually going to just completely fill this bed with carrots, because carrots do very, very well here in the fall, and I can overwinter them in the garden. Like, they will not, because our ground doesn't really freeze here. I'll be able to have this whole bed this winter full of carrots. This tiny little bed over here is some kale. We've been on this property for 4 years. This was the very first spot that I picked to put my garden. I've since realized that it's not the best spot. But anyways, I keep adding new garden beds to this garden area, and these couple of garden beds along here are all new beds that I just put in this year. And we purchased some soil from a local landscaping company. And unfortunately, the soil that we purchased, we were told that it was topsoil. And I thought, okay, that's good. That'll be a good filler soil for my beds. Later, we found out that it was pretty much just sifted clay soil. So it is not good soil at all. It really has no nutrients in whatsoever. So unfortunately, even with amending this with a little bit of compost, that bed, unfortunately, my plants are struggling. So I have a couple of different varieties of kale in here. I have a red Russian kale, and then I have a dino kale. And these guys are struggling. I have the kale in here, and then I had a couple of kales that I put in that bed, and you notice the difference between the kales. This kale is huge, and I planted this one 4 weeks after. Same with that one. 4 weeks after I planted these guys, and look at the size difference. It's all because of the soil quality. You really need to make sure that you are dealing with a good quality soil so you get the optimal nutrition for your plant. This bed right here was just kind of a bed that I just threw some stuff in. This is a beautiful comfrey plant. I'm gonna actually try to transplant some of that and put it into my back garden, because comfrey is amazing for the garden. It's a very deep-rooted plant, so it's really good for breaking through soil, and we have really bad clay soil here, so I really want to put some of this in the back. Plus, just these flowers are beautiful and they attract pollinators, and I really need to get some good pollinators in the back garden. And you'll see why when we go back there. This is some hyssop here. This is one of my favorite smelling herbs. I absolutely love the smell of hyssop. Then we have some catnip here, some calendula, and some wormwood. And then I actually just transplanted these 3 sunflowers. They were popped up in my pea bed. I didn't really want the peas to have to compete with anything, so I transplanted the sunflowers over here, and they're doing great. And this bed right here is just some lemongrass. And then this bed right here is some turnips. Starting to get some turnips. I had originally planted a whole bunch of turnips in here, and again, because of that pill bug problem that we're having, or roly-polies, everybody calls them something different, they actually ended up eating most of my turnip starts. Where the lemongrass is, that was full of turnips also, but they just got annihilated by the bugs. So this year I've just been kind of competing with bugs to get my seedlings in the ground. And this bed right here is another new bed, and that it has that really bad soil in it. I have some more red Russian kale, and then just some curly leaf kale, which I'm gonna give these guys some fish emulsion and see if I can kind of get them to start to grow a little bit bigger. I have some more tomato starts there. I'm actually gonna go today and pick up some potting soil. These are all determinate varieties of tomatoes, so they will only get to grow a certain size and produce a certain amount of fruit. So I'm going to put these guys in pots because I don't have any more space for them in the ground. So that is on my project list today. I just have some chamomile in there. I like to grow that for teas. And then we have another borage plant here, and then some calendula. Then right here I have a giant crimson tomato plant. I like to do this where I have dirt available. I will just put a plant in. And then we've got some more celery here, and then some romaine lettuce that is actually needs to get picked. And then this right here is a eucalyptus. I purchased this start this year. Unfortunately, in our zone, eucalyptus will not overwinter here. So I did put it in a pot, and I will bring that pot into my house in the winter time. And then next spring, I will bring it out. My intent is to keep up potting it. That was just a little start that I had, so it's in a smaller pot. Hopefully next year, I'll be able to up pot it, and maybe like I'll get a couple little seedlings off of it. I love the smell of eucalyptus, and to be able to grow that myself, that's really, really awesome. And then I just have a lonely little blueberry plant over here. I had a couple more of them, but they did not survive. This guy is the only one left. My plan is to actually transplant this guy to an area where we are planning on putting a couple other bushes. And then the last thing in this garden that we have some yarrow here, which yarrow again is a very aggressive plant, and it will take over everything. So if plant your yarrow where you want it and where you just want yarrow, because it will consume everything. And this right here is a champagne bubbles cherry tomato plant, and I have some snow peas in here that are also starting to go. And then again, just some onions, because I like to just throw onions everywhere. That is it for my side garden. Let's head over to the back in-ground garden. Actually, we'll make a little pit stop before we head over there. This side of my property is kind of an area that we are slowly starting to develop. This year I went and purchased 5 raspberry starts. Unfortunately, only 3 of them survived. My intention is next year to actually expand this bed out to here, put some more raspberries here, and then potentially put more back there. And then we're going to trellis them. Because this is the first year these raspberries are here, I just kind of want to see how they do. They look like they're doing pretty good. Ones that did survive look like they survived pretty good. Do have a couple of random sunflowers that I just put there also. Raspberry is a plant that likes to be trellised up. We're kind of doing this garden in baby steps. Every year we kind of start to focus on something new. Like this year we really put our focus into getting our grapes kind of going and just starting our raspberries and strawberries. So we're kind of, I mean, those are probably the first things that you really should focus on when you move to a new property, because they are a perennial, and it's best to get your perennials in right away so that they can get time to get established, because they won't start producing for a couple of years. Right here is our grape kind of section. This is a very temporary solution. We are going to be wanting in the future to build a beautiful pergola where these grapes can vine. This is a Concord grape variety. We have Lots of grapes developing. I need to get in here and actually prune these guys. I am just learning how to kind of grow grapes. I have not really put a focus on them. We planted these 4 years ago, and when we planted them, almost all of them died back, and I thought it was a complete loss. But this year, on the 3rd year or the 4th year that they are here, all of a sudden they just took off, which is amazing. So I'm really gonna have to learn how to prune these guys appropriately, because I know that grapes, you need to kind of prune from the bottom and just have a selected amount so that they can really put their focus on the actual grapes and growing them. So that is something that I am learning. So far we only have these 2 that kind of decided to produce this year. I did go and purchase 5 new plants because the other ones, like I said, they had died. So we have 6 more Concord grapes, and again, these guys are just brand new that I put in this year, so they're gonna take a little bit to get established. This guy we thought for sure had died, because you can see here on this stick, you can see how high our water gets back here, and this guy completely was underwater, but look at, it's coming back to life, which is really exciting. Same with that guy. That guy was completely underwater and dead, and now has completely come back. So that's awesome. So at the front of our property, we actually have a couple of fruit trees. So at the front, we have a couple of peach trees. They have been there for 4 years. We have been pulling the blossoms off of them because we really just wanted to get them established. Fruit trees take a really, really long time before they are able to actually produce any fruit for you. So we have a couple that are doing really well, and a couple that I might potentially be replacing because they're really struggling. And then we just, a couple weeks ago, we actually went and purchased 2 apple trees, and we have not got them in the ground yet because we've been really busy. So I was saying to Stephen that potentially tonight we might get those apple trees planted. Those are going to go on the other side of our property. Where we live, it is a very small community, but it is a community that is starting to really build up because we are so close to Nashville. Our community is growing, and it is growing very fast. And one thing that I have found since moving here, and we've only been on this particular property for 4 years, that our road is now becoming a very busy road. So my hope was that we could get some beautiful fruit trees in the front of our property to kind of buffer some of that road sound and just kind of give a little bit more privacy to our property. So we've kind of been focusing on getting some trees in that front part of our property. So let's head over to the in-ground garden in the back. We're at the back part of our property now, which is kind of my in-ground garden bed. If you hear noise, it's just our turkeys. They're very aggressive. I have not fed any of the animals yet. I mean, they do have food, but they're wanting more fresh food. So if you hear any noise, it's probably just the turkeys. We also have our laying hens over there, so they might also be vocal because they actually have not ate yet this morning. Thought I would do this first before it got too hot out here, because I think today is actually supposed to be 90. So in this area, you can see behind me, we have some cow panel trellises. This is all of our tomatoes that I haven't randomly not put throughout our property. So unfortunately, I had a little mishap with tomatoes this year. I planted tomatoes last month. Last frost date is typically mid-April. So what I did is I planted all of my tomatoes out, I planted all my peppers, and then we actually got hit with some really bad storms, and this whole back area got flooded. We got hail. It was horrible. So I ended up having to take out 95% of my tomato plants that I had started because they all got blight and started to die. So the end of last month, I actually went out and purchased some tomato starts from our local Amish greenhouses. I up-potted them, and then last weekend I actually just planted them all. And they are looking like they are surviving really well, which is really good. What I do with my tomato varieties is I don't actually cluster them all together. So I just kind of like put different varieties, like just kind of scatter them everywhere. I will show you the main varieties that I have growing back here. There are a couple of just odd ones because I did get a couple that actually survived from the ones that I seed started, which I'm very, very, very thankful for. So this guy right here, I didn't have room in my in-ground, so I just threw him in a pot. This is a Jetstar tomato. And then right here we have a pineapple. Then we have a hillbilly. This one right here is called a Sweet Israel, and this one is actually a determinate variety, so I need to kind of make a note for myself not to prune the bottom. This one is one of our original ones, and this is an Abe Lincoln. Then we have an Amish paste. And this one is again one of my original ones. This is a giant crimson one. I purchased these seeds from M.I. Gardner, and this guy is really doing really well. And then this variety right here is called Oxheart. And then we have another hillbilly, and then we have a Arkansas Traveler. Now, one thing that I do is I sprinkle little basil plants kind of with my tomatoes. Basil is a really good companion with tomatoes. I always plant basil and tomato together. One of my favorite things to eat in the summer is tomato with basil with some balsamic reduction over top. So delicious. So I love growing the two together so I can just kind of pick them together and put them in my basket and bring them in and make that salad. And then these pots right here, I have a orange snacking pepper. They're just those little tiny peppers that are perfect just to dip. Then we have a Roma tomato, and then we have a eggplant here. And then I have the same kind of varieties going down here, and then at the very end there I have an eggplant. And again, just the same varieties going all down this trellis. And I do have marigolds kind of sprinkled throughout, and this back row is pretty much just basils. And then this bed back here, I just have things just kind of random everywhere. This is one of my original tomatoes that I actually seed started as well. And this one is a Black Beauty. And look at, we have some tomatoes growing. I'm really excited. These tomatoes are absolutely beautiful. This plant is doing really well. This bed is kind of a little bit of an experiment bed for me. So I have read in many different places, it says that you cannot mix brassicas with tomatoes. They are not good companion growers. I thought I would do an experiment and just kind of put the two together. This tomato plant is one of my better looking tomatoes. And then I have two cauliflowers right here. Now these guys are a little bit slower to head up, and the cabbage moss are starting to kind of get these guys, but the tomato plant is doing beautiful. And I would rather get the tomatoes from this because this is actually the only Black Beauty one that I had that survived. So I would rather get the tomatoes off of here than honestly get the cauliflower. So if all the bugs are going over there to eat those guys, have at it because I want my tomatoes. Right here I have a couple of zucchini plants starting to come up. I just direct sowed the seeds here. Where I live, direct sowing pumpkins, watermelon, zucchini, that works perfect because we have such a long growing season here. And then I have these two beautiful trellised arches, which I just, as soon as we put these in, it just completely made the garden. And I'm so looking forward to when these guys just get full of foliage and just vegetables and fruit. I can't wait. Right here along this side of the trellis, we have some Kajari melons that are just starting to come up. I grew these last year and we really enjoyed them. And then on this side of the trellis, we have some red Malabar spinach. This is the first year I'm attempting to grow it. And then a random eggplant because I didn't have any room for it, and none of the Malabar spinach is actually germinated in that hole, so I just put a random eggplant. So I have heard that Malabar spinach does really, really well in the heat of the summer, and it likes to vine and climb. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that looks like. On this trellis here, on this side, we have honeydew melons. These are Stephen's favorite kind of melons. Stephen is my husband. If I refer to Stephen, that's who he is. So we have some honeydew melons over here, and then on this side we have some just regular, I think it's called honey rock melons, so it's just some regular cantaloupes. So we have those on here. And then these right here are all of my vining squash, watermelons, and pumpkins. So we have a couple of different varieties in here. This one right here is a crimson sweet watermelon. So the first two are the crimson sweet, and then the last two are a seedless watermelon variety. I just picked the seedless ones up at the Amish. I really wanted to get a variety of watermelon that did not have seeds. I'm finding that growing my own watermelons, they tend to have a lot of seeds in them. This winter, when I order my seeds for next year, I'm actually going to look for a seedless variety of watermelon because we really enjoy having the no seeds. So this row right here is a couple more seedless varieties, and then Yamato cream. I don't know how to pronounce it, probably butchering it, but this is a watermelon that actually has a cream colored inside. And the description of this watermelon actually said it has a very citrus pear-like taste. So I'm looking forward to these guys growing. And then right here along this row, we have some sweet dumplings. This is supposed to be a sweet squash, kind of like a butternut squash. And then we have Long Island cheese pumpkin, and these guys are just starting to germinate now. Just because we've had such warm weather now and it's consistently warm and our nights are definitely warmer, these pumpkins have all decided they're gonna germinate now, which is awesome. And then along this row here, we have some butternut squash. Here we have some New England sugar pie pumpkins. These are really, really good for canning and using for like pumpkin pies and stuff and pumpkin bread. And this row right here, we have some spaghetti squash. And then along here, we have, what are these? Actually, sorry, I lied. These are Canada crookneck squash, which are very, very similar to a butternut squash, but they have a longer neck. I've heard that they're a better variety to grow because you get less seeds in them, because the longer neck, you get more meat in them. And then the next row after that is spaghetti squash. And then these guys right here, what are these guys? Oh, these guys right here in this row are my Jardale squash, which is a pumpkin, but it is a beautiful like Tiffany blue color pumpkin. Really looking forward to it, and I've heard that it is a very sweet tasting pumpkin. So I like the Tiffany blue color, plus I like the fact that I have another squash that I can can up because we love pumpkin bread and pumpkin muffins. This row right here is kind of a mix between seedless watermelons and Moon and Stars watermelon. The Moon and Stars are these two right here, and they are definitely stunted. I put these in the ground, and then we had those really bad storms and colder nights, and these guys got pretty stunted. So I'm hoping with the heat, they'll come back. And then these two ones right here are called an Old Time Tennessee Melon. These ones are like a huge cantaloupe. They're very, very delicious. And this guy that's going crazy right here is a wood gourd. I purchased those seeds from Botanical Interest, and they are what's called a wood gourd, which when it dries, it hardens almost to like a wood texture. So I am hoping to grow these and dry them, and then potentially maybe make some bowls with them. So this is an experiment. This is the very first time that I'm growing these, and I'm looking forward to it. Also to note, the germination was very, very poor. I used the whole seed packet, and out of the whole seed packet, I actually only got 2 to germinate. So we have, this one is one of them that germinated. I actually seed started this one, and it's growing really, really well. And then I put a couple seeds in the ground, and I got 1 to germinate. So I'm excited about that. That hole right there does have a couple of seeds in it, but we don't have any germination yet. Hoping to get some. That plant over there is just another butternut squash. It's just a plain butternut squash. And then I have just a couple of green zucchinis up front here. I have another borage, but again, it's just struggling back here because of the soil. We have very, very dense clay soil. And then I've got a couple marigolds over there. This bed right here is my corn bed, and it is all starting to germinate. I have a couple of different varieties in here. They are both a hybrid variety that I just purchased the packets from Lowe's. If you follow along on some of my other videos, you will know that I have been complaining about this back garden bed. This corn bed was about a foot underwater. With those really bad storms, we have really bad drainage back here, and our yard actually slopes this way. And this bed got completely flooded. I had not hilled them. This is, again, I'm learning with corn. This is only my second year growing corn. So I had put a whole bunch of varieties. I purchased seeds from Baker's Creek, from M.I. Gardner, from Johnny Seeds. Like, I had a whole bunch of different varieties of corn, and I had them all planted. Anyways, we got those storms, all of the seeds rotted. So this is my second attempt at growing corn. So we have two different varieties in here. We have a jackpot super sweet corn and a bantam super sweet corn. I'm not concerned with them cross-pollinating each other because they are both very, very sweet varieties. So it is fine if they cross-pollinate. I went ahead and decided that in this particular soil, because this is a brand new plot that I made this year, I needed to hill these in order to kind of help my drainage. And we got quite a bit of rain yesterday, and these obviously held up beautifully. But all the corn is starting to germinate now, which is really, really exciting. This row right here is 3 different varieties of okra. They're all starting to germinate as well. Started them all from seed. So we have a Clemson, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have a red variety, and then we have Parkins. That's how you pronounce it. So 3 different types of okra in here. And okra is supposed to be, from what my research has said, it's supposed to be a good wind wall from the corn. So we'll see how that works out. And then these are just a couple of raised beds that I just put in this year. Like I was saying earlier, kind of our focus this year was doing some perennials, and putting in some strawberry beds was a big, big focus that we had this year. I planted over 200 strawberry plants back here. They're doing really, really well. One of the tips that I actually got from one of my Amish friends, my Amish farmers, they told me that I should be taking the flowers off the first year. That way the roots can get really established and the plants can really focus on putting the runners off and just getting bigger. So I have been pulling most of my flowers off of these strawberry plants. We have been getting a select amount. I remember she's actually said to me, she goes, you can keep a couple flowers on just so that you can have a couple fresh strawberries. So I've been pulling most of them off, and these strawberries are just looking beautiful. I'm getting so many runners off of these guys. I'm really excited for next strawberry season. And these beds back here are where we have our peppers. I preserved 2 years worth of peppers last year, so this year I was not hyper focused on getting a lot of peppers like growing because we really don't need a lot. So this bed right here, I just have a couple of sweet peppers. I have some California Wonder, and then I have another snacking pepper there. This whole bed is shishito peppers. Now you'll notice a difference between the 2 different peppers in here. This I had planted like a long time ago, and so it is very well established. It's beautiful, it's green. This guy I just put in because the pepper plant that was actually there got severely damaged in the hail, so I just put another pepper plant that I had started, and it is looking like it's not healthy, but these guys, when I planted them in here, they look like that. So I am not concerned with the appearance of it because I know that in a couple of weeks it's going to end up looking beautiful and green like these guys. So these are all shishito peppers, and this is kind of one of my hot pepper beds. We have Tabasco peppers over here, and then these 3 pepper plants right here are long, slim cayenne peppers. I'm planning on making a lot of hot sauce this year, so that's pretty much what this bed is going to be. And then this bed over here is a sweet pepper bed. So I have some sweet chocolate peppers. I have some, it's a long red Italian pepper. It's a good roasting pepper. I am going to try this year to potentially make some paprika with it. I'm going to try to smoke it and see if that works. Again, these are all new plants I put in here. They will come back. They look very sickly and just not happy right now, but I'm not concerned. They will come back. And then these guys right here, I just have a Golden California Wonder, which is a sweet bell pepper, and then just a regular California Wonder, which is another sweet pepper. And then this bed right here is just some soybeans. I've actually had to sow these twice. I'm actually gonna go in this week and sow another bunch of beans in here. What is happening is either two things. I'm either getting birds coming and eating the seedlings, because as you can see, we are in a wide open pasture. And I don't have scarecrows back here. I need to definitely get something to deter the birds. Or I am contending with like a field mice coming in and taking the actual seedlings out, because I noticed yesterday when I came back here before we got the rain that all the seedlings had been plucked out. The holes were all empty. So I'm gonna come back here, I'm gonna sow some more seeds, and I'm actually gonna end up putting a little mesh layer over top of it. That way, if it is the birds, they cannot come out and pluck the seeds out. If it's mice, the mice will be able to tear through the mesh, but at least I'll get my answers on what it is. So that's soybeans. I like to preserve these in the freezer over winter because we do love edamame beans. I'm gonna come out here probably next week and sow a whole nother packet of seeds for the third time. That was our back garden bed. I'm gonna show you one last garden bed that I have. In the front of my house, I have all of my flowers planted. I'm not gonna show you guys that, but that is where I have a majority of them. Next year, when I am planting, I am actually going to plant a lot of flowers in that back garden, because like I was saying, I'm really trying to attract the pollinators back there, because I have all my squash and pumpkin and watermelon, and all of those need pollinators, and I have no flowers back there to kind of attract the pollinators. I actually had one of my sweet dumplings actually had a little fruit on it, but it didn't get pollinated because again there's no pollinators back there, and so it just ended up falling off. So I don't want to hand pollinate everything back there, so I'm thinking I'm actually gonna go and pick up a couple of potted flowers and just put them back there to try to, you know, entice the pollinators to go back there and just kind of pollinate all my stuff. But the front garden is where I have all of my beautiful pretty flowers. This garden right here is located very close to my house, and I kind of call this my kitchen garden. It is just a lot of herbs that I use in my everyday cooking. So we have some lavender here, which is beautiful. It's starting to bloom. And then I have a couple of calendulas mixed in there. I have some horehound back there. Sorry, when I put my hand in it, distorts everything. I have some horehound back there, and then this right here is some thyme. This right here is an oregano plant, which is just, as you can see, it has taken over everything. I actually need to come in and like just cut this down. And then I have some sage over here, and then this beautiful plant right here is some peppermint sage. That is really, really good for teas. And then I have some rosemary down here, some marjoram, a dying basil plant. I need to actually come in and prune this guy, and hopefully it'll come back. And then I have some tarragon and some beautiful orange calendulas right there. This is just some parsley that has gone to seed. And then I have a couple of different cherry tomatoes back here. One is a sweetie and one is a Chadwick, and the Chadwick is actually starting to give me some tomatoes. I'm excited for those to go red. And this right here is what I was talking about by the mint. This is all mint. All of it, mint. I have a little bit of chocolate mint in here, like these darker leaves right here. This is chocolate mint. The rest of this is just all what's called garden mint. This right here is an example of why you want to put your mint into containers, because it just consumes. This plant right here is a lemon balm. I love the smell of lemon balm. In fact, I just come out here sometimes and I just pick it and just walk around my property smelling it. It is just the most amazing smell. I love it. I have a couple of different lemon balm plants throughout my property because I just love the smell of it. It makes a very, very good nighttime tea, so that's another reason why I have a lot of it planted. This right here is an echinacea. I have a marigold in here, and this guy is going to seed. This is an orange balm. Same thing like the lemon balm, it smells amazing. And then we have another lavender plant over here. And then in the back we have some chamomile that actually self-seeded back here. So I came out and harvested a little bit off of it. This particular side of the garden gets very, very little sun. Like as you can see, it is very shaded right now. This shop in the back here blocks a lot of the sun, but these plants obviously have no problem with that and they are just thriving. So that is my kind of what I call kitchen garden. It's just a garden that I can just kind of come out and grab something that I'll need for supper. That is a tour of what my garden is looking like on June the 1st. I am hoping to actually do monthly garden tours with you guys. Our gardens change so quickly here. Like within a matter of a couple of days, something that is just starting to come out of the ground will be huge within a matter of a couple of days. So I am thinking that I want to kind of give you guys these tours every maybe 2 to 3 weeks. The garden for me is kind of my happy place. It is a place where I kind of find my zen, I find my peace, I go there, I do a lot of prayer in the garden, and I really, really love talking about the garden. Because it is one of my favorite spots and because it is a place where I find an extreme amount of peace, I love sharing it with people. I love talking about it and I love showing people different varieties on what they can grow. I also love sharing my failures so that if I do something incorrectly, it can teach the next person what not to do. And also the other thing too is because this is such a huge community, this gardening community is just huge. And if I am not doing something correctly, somebody on here watching knows how to do it the right way because they've probably failed in the past. So I love any type of comment that you have. If you are seeing me actually do something incorrectly or a way that I can improve it, please leave a comment and let me know because I'm not a new gardener. I've been gardening for about 15 years, but I can always learn something. And that's the thing with gardening too, is you can always learn something new. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And like I said, I want to get these out for you throughout this whole growing season so that you guys can see how everything's growing and I can have it just kind of for my own collection to see how far my gardens come. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.